Hi, boys and girls. This week we're talking about Jacob Lawrence. He's a Black painter, and he is really very well known for social realism. And what that is, social, if you think about social, it has to do with people and communication and connections. And then realism is realistic, what was realistic. So what was going on with people that was realistic, social realism. If you were to look at his work, you would think, well, this doesn't look realistic. This looks like colors and shapes. And they look like people, but really what I'm seeing are very basic shapes put together. And that's true. It's not that kind of realism, not like photorealism where you're painting to look like something is very realistic. What he did is he used his artwork as his voice to tell what was important to him in society. So one of the big series that he did that he's very well known for is called The Great Migration. And at the time, this was back in the early 1900s, and I want to say 70% of all Blacks in America lived in the South. And it really hadn't been that long after, think about it, after slavery was abolished. So 1865 was the end of slavery, and we're talking about the early 1900s, even into the 1930s. We're talking 60 years. Well, they really hadn't progressed that far in the South in a lot of places. So the Black people were still treated very terribly. The laws were against them, and they could be lynched, or they were lynched, which means that they were killed by people without a trial. So they wouldn't go to court, they wouldn't go to a trial. So a group of people would decide that somebody was guilty and they would kill them. And there wasn't very much in the way of job opportunity down there either. It was to work in the fields, to do very hard labor that the white people didn't want to do, and they paid them very little money for it. So a lot of the people down in the South, a lot of the Black people decided that they were going to move to the big cities. And so what they did is they took trains and walked and went north. So a lot of Black people from the South ended up in the North in the big cities, and that was a huge change for them because these are people who lived on farms in very remote rural areas in the South, and now they're in the big cities. And I think it was by, I don't know the numbers, 1965, I think it had switched to only like 35% of the Black population in the United States still lived in the South. So it was a huge migration of people, tons and tons of people, and they formed these Black communities in New York. One in particular, Harlem, was the place where Jacob Lawrence and his family went. I think he was about 13 years old, and he studied art. He was able to study art in Harlem. And that was a huge shift for a lot of Black Americans, for most Black Americans to have that kind of an opportunity. He would have never had that opportunity down in the South. But up in Harlem in New York, he had that opportunity because there were a lot of other Black people that he could study from, and there was a strong community. And he was a very, very talented artist, and he created the Great Migration series. He also created many, many other social realism style artworks. So he continued to use his art as his voice for social change. And you can look around the world today. We've got a lot going on in the world today. There's a lot of protesting, a lot of people have a lot to say, and they don't only say it with their words. A lot of people say it with their music, and they will say it with their art. So what I'm asking you to do is to take an aspect of something that Jacob Lawrence did. It could be social realism. You could have something that you feel passionate about, that you want to use art as your voice. It could be that you love how he used shape and color. Your choice. However you want to be inspired by Jacob Lawrence, I invite you to to create something and put it up on our Jamboard and share it. And, put a note. I want to know what you think of Jacob Lawrence and his work. All right, have fun.